Hello, my name is Mark Mahold, and this is my oral presentation on my research paper, which is on net neutrality. The first thing that we need to do is get a good definition of net neutrality. So, what is net neutrality? It is an established rule for carriers or internet service providers to reference when they're providing internet access for users. These rules prevent these internet service providers, or ISPs for short, from slowing or halting the data transfer that users have between the internet and the computer when they're accessing the internet, unless the internet service providers are maintaining or servicing that connection, which in a nutshell basically means that the internet service providers cannot throttle or deny you access from going to any website or download anything on the internet because it is a free and accessible place for everyone. The unfortunate thing is people are trying to change that, namely these internet service providers. Why this is so important is that without internet regulation, internet service providers are kind of able to pick and choose what they believe should not be viewed by users or what they can charge you more to access. So say you wanted to get on Facebook, but your internet plan didn't allow you to go on to social media websites with impunity. So you may have a throttled connection, or if it's a high traffic day, you're not going to be able to access it quick enough, which is completely unacceptable. And they also have the ability to scrutinize everything that you have when you access the internet, which doesn't allow you to keep your data private. They can end up selling it to everything. So it's a really important thing, which is kind of the main thing of my thesis argument is the government must regulate these internet service providers from overstepping their authority to charge exorbitant amounts for something that everyone needs in this day and age. Nowadays, in 2021, the internet is not just a commodity. It is a thing that everybody needs to use to get on and kind of go about most of their daily life. It's not something that you can just pay extra for because it's a luxury. Everybody needs it nowadays. Using this internet class as an example, I'm online doing a presentation without the internet or without internet neutrality. I may have to pay extra for doing just a presentation on the internet. Some of the research that I did was to prove that these internet service providers and other companies are completely irresponsible and unable to regulate the internet on their own, which in 2007, one of the internet service providers, Comcast, which is one of the largest in the United States, tried to stop people from going onto uTorrent and the Pirate Bay, which are file sharing websites that allow you to download things and share them from peer to peer. They tried to block peer to peer software to combat actually going into these uTorrent and Pirate Bay websites, but what they actually did was they stopped people from using peer-to-peer share software altogether, which means if you were on a shared drive for an office, you couldn't put on a report to show everybody. They would have to actually come get it from you because they weren't able to access it on the internet, which was really inconvenient for most people. Another point, AT&T was hosting a concert by the band Pearl Jam. Their lead singer was protesting against George Bush and started a message that AT&T didn't like. So they censored it. And their defense was that they were censoring it because of the profanity in the message. When there was no profanity, they just didn't like their statement. So, how long before internet service providers go from blocking small things to try to combat bad things to charging you money to access a website that they don't necessarily support the message of, or just completely throttle your internet connection because you've been watching too much Netflix? Again, this kind of proves that the government really is the only one that can safely regulate this without having the temptation of internet service providers messing things up for everyone. From an ethical standpoint, you really have to think of virtue ethics. It's kind of the right thing to do. For those of you who don't know what virtue ethics is, it's focusing on developing honorable behavior and good moral character. So basically, that old saying, do unto others. The golden rule definitely applies. You don't want to have to pay extra or, be throttled with your internet connection because you just don't want to pay more for your internet service. Providing affordable and complete internet should be something that everybody can get on board with because it's really the right thing to do, especially like I was saying previously, the internet is not something that, is a luxury commodity anymore. Everybody needs it. The overall message of this paper was that net neutrality must be regulated by the government in order to properly ensure that the internet is truly able to be accessed by everyone without being forced to pay for extra frills by internet service providers. This infographic kind of displays that as well. As you can see, I left the important information on these two internet service providers that kind of mess things up. Also, I kept everything kind of black and green because it kind of pops. And I added photos to remind people that this is legislation. This is something the government is going to be discussing from, now on, because the internet isn't going away anytime soon. And then at the very bottom, I reaffirm my thesis statement and tell you to speak out, write your congressman, and also provided an ACLU link for your source. If I continued looking at these research, I'd probably expand on the terrible job internet service providers and other agencies do when regulating this internet, showing that can't be trusted, provide more examples of that, and go into kind of in-depth how bad they really are. My name is Mark Mahold, and this has been my presentation on net neutrality.